Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 597 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous: Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes& Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, our next guest is a woman of action, unafraid to confront societal gaps head on. I absolutely love that. And I would encourage all of our listeners to do exactly the same. Now, there's all kinds of problems out in the universe. I mean, where do we begin, right? But the bottom line is pick one of them, pick one societal gap, and go and address that. Ultimately, I wrote my dissertation on the early warning signs of hazing in college fraternities and sororities. Now, that might not be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay, but I'm picking one societal gap that I'm going to dedicate my time to, and I would encourage you to do exactly the same. Our next guest is Erika Sinner, a CEO, an empathy-driven culture advocate, and also the guiding force behind Directorie, an Inc. 5000 company dedicated to propelling life science organizations forward in bringing vital products to market. With a career spanning nearly 2 decades, Erika's innovative spirit has fostered successful teams and elevated brands within the pharmaceutical industry. For Erika, empathy is more than understanding another person's perspective. It's about creating environments where people feel seen and valued. Growing up in a household marked by instability, she also learned how important it is to create spaces where people feel safe. Erika is not merely a CEO or an author. She is a catalyst for healing and transformation. Welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Anybody that wants to help college students is okay by me, and you have a spot on our show anytime you would like it. Because, you've built a remarkable career as a CEO and this empathy-driven culture advocate. Can you take us back to your early life and share with us how growing up in that household that had instability in it, how did that shape your views on leadership and empathy today?
Of course, yes. I will be quick. Nobody wants to start with the day I was born. But truly for me, I think the lesson in my childhood has been I know what it feels like to not be chosen. My own dad didn't choose me, my family, my sister. And I think the lesson I learned that day is that, and every day after, was if I was ever not chosen to be on a team, if I was ever not invited to a party, like it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't hurt as much as this not feeling chosen by the one person, right, who's supposed to love you. My mom, she really tried. She was a single mom, but she also was faced with health and mental challenges as we were growing up, which led to a lot of financial instability as well. And I think that can shape you as a person. I think being able to pay your bills, having a home, food, all of the things are parts of safety. And so growing up with all of those things, I think it made empathy for me a non-negotiable in how I lead today. And really understanding that if you can make someone feel valued, seen, heard, gosh, you can unlock so much in that individual and you can change the world.
Mm. I am so sorry you had to go through that as a kid. And it does kind of make me think about just how much of our life is really dictated by our experiences as a child, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of fascinating how it all evolves and how we all came to be. And it's also interesting too. I know you decided on Lindenwood University for your undergraduate experience. I'm wondering, why did you choose Lindenwood?
Yeah, so I do want to wrap up too, just to say like it's choosing yourself is so important, like in
Mm,
general, right?
mm,
Like being able to know that you can choose yourself is like one of the foundational core things. And even with different types of parents, different types of upbringing, we all have challenges. It doesn't have to just be that you didn't know where your food was coming from. All of us have things that we go through. And all of them are equally hard. So I always like to say that I wouldn't change anything about my childhood. It really made me who I am today. And now,
mm.
as I get to talk to this next generation, to say you all have the power to choose you, and how cool is that? But Lindenwood, okay, so I'm pragmatic. I didn't have, the full experience of fraternity sorority life. I actually was working full time. I needed to find a school that was going to have a night school program that would allow me to get my bachelor's degree. I knew how important education was, having that degree to my career. And Lindenwood did that for me. However, since I have learned that Lindenwood is one of the first women universities west of the Mississippi, and as a Swiftie, Taylor Swift's grandma went to Lindenwood. So I'm very proud of that.
That's the claim to fame, right?
Yes.
That is really, really good. That's funny that Taylor Swift reference. I went for my master's degree to a place called Cumberland University, which is just outside of Nashville. Many people haven't really heard of it because it is such a small university. But Taylor Swift shot one of her most famous videos on that campus.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's really funny to have these like Taylor Swift things about a campus that makes it just notable to other students. And they're like, no way. And then sure
Swifties
enough,
are
you
out
pull up the
there.
video and there's the university. That is so funny. All right, well, very cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So, obviously you know about college and you know about the high pressure environments that these kids are in.
Yeah.
How did you learn to navigate all of the challenges that you've been through without losing your sense of compassion for other people?
For me, the challenges were balancing my full-time job, heavy travel, and then night school, the homework. I had to plan for the big weeks, like finals, but also big
Mhm.
work projects. And it was always making sure that I planned for the recharge or the reset after to know that it was coming. Because there's always going to be times in your life when you start your career where you're going to have to work more hours this week or you're going to have we're going to push your capacity this week. And I think that that's happening in college today, where whether you're dealing with a formal or I believe students today are flexing their leadership skills more than any other time in school. And that might be around, event planning or rush week or doing marketing for your sorority. And I love that because I hope everyone listening really understands those really are leadership skills and they will apply. I would even say not to the real world because you're in the real world. Like you're in it right now doing all of the things. Um, but for me, the North Star for me is compassion. And it's always making sure that I remind myself that every single person I engage with is a human being. They have their own story, they have their own things going on. And so as long as you're not looking at things as like a check in the box, you can hold that compassion and you can hold yourself as a leader in any role that you are in. And so, how do you take care of yourself in making sure that you're making and building time for rest on the recharge? And how are you also making sure that as you engage with the individuals, that you're remembering that they're human beings? And if you're finding time to rest, then maybe you won't snap so much because you're in such a high pressured situation with people around you, with their own feelings and their own sets of responsibilities. But it's really both of those, planning for rest and remembering everyone is a human.
Mm. You talk a lot about compassion and you talk a lot about empathy, but you know that we're living in this social media world, and on Instagram, it's all about you. I mean, let's just face it, that's exactly what it is. So, empathy is something that I wish that our college campuses today would have more of that. And
Yeah.
many of our listeners are in fraternities and sororities, they hold leadership positions.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, how can they help to build an inclusive, centered culture in their organization that have these long-standing traditions?
It's a great question. But I think it can be answered simply, truly. Whether it's a brand new house or a sorority or fraternity with decades of history, I think the best thing you can do is to help people feel like they belong. That is the greatest gift you can give to a community, to another human. The world is so divided in so many ways, whether it's on your opening TikTok or Instagram or the news. There's a whole list of reasons why we all might have different opinions on a whole lot of things. But I do really believe the best way we can honor our long history is to invest in the present. What are we doing right now? And that then makes it possible to have a future, right? Because when you look back, if you're doing the work, even if it's hard, um, it makes it so your organization will actually withstand and be around for years to come.
Mm. I like that idea of belonging. I think that is something that all of us need. I mean, you look at Maslow's hierarchy, clearly, we
Yeah.
all need to belong. We have that need and that desire. And I think that's why I love fraternity and sorority so much, is because it does give that sense of belonging to these students. And I think it's the greatest tool that we have in terms of retention of college students today. So, for all the universities that are struggling with retaining their students and graduation rates, let me tell you, go and look at your fraternities and sororities right now. Pull the data and look at their graduation rates and look at their retention rates versus non-affiliated students. And you're going to see what I'm talking about when Erica is talking about belonging. That is the key right there. So I would encourage everybody to invest in their fraternity and sorority community. And we are starting to see those wins starting to change a little bit, where they are understanding now the correlation, and now they are starting to invest. But we need to make that as quick as we possibly can to make sure that these fraternities and sororities have room to grow and offer that belonging to more college students. Tell us a little bit more about Tiny Superheroes. What is your mission to bring this superhero culture to Children's Hospital? I'm just so intrigued. I want to know what your vision is.
Yeah, so I started Directorie, my company in the pharmaceutical space, and I like to say for the last 20 years I've been focusing on vials. And now with my nonprofit Tiny Superheroes, I get to focus on smiles. And in continuing on the thread of belonging, Tiny Superheroes is a nonprofit that helps kids who are in the hospital or fighting for their lives or born with a rare condition. It gives them a new story about who they are, to say that, today when you're born with an abnormality or a birth defect, the language is already very negative around who you are. They're saying you're not normal, something's broken in you. But the truth is we believe that they are tiny superheroes and that they are being brave and courageous as they complete each of their missions. So every chemotherapy, every surgery, every scan, all of the things are missions. And how someone feels about themselves can change the way their life looks for the rest of their life.
Wow, good for
Mm,
you. I
thank
love this
you.
idea. I think it's fantastic. How can college students or the fraternity and sorority members who are listening right now get involved in bringing this hope and empowerment to kids in hospitals through your initiative?
Oh my gosh. So I would say, we do a monthly mission for our superheroes. So on the first Monday of every month, we launch a mission should they choose to accept it. They can do them. And that makes them feel like they're part of a superhero squad and they're doing the things. But if one of those monthly missions was ever done by like a sorority or a fraternity house and it like went viral and our superheroes were able to see, oh my God, like they believe in us, they're doing the same missions as us, that would be amazing. And I would also say if you're looking from a financial level, it is $29 is what our starter kit starts at for each of our superheroes. They get this beautiful box. I actually have one here that welcomes them to the superhero squad. They get their own cape, and then their family gets the free missions for moving forward. And then there's also family support. So if there's ever a car wash or a fundraiser or something where you want to activate for every $29, that is a superhero that gets to join our squad because of you.
Wow, that is a really cool mission. I like that. I
Yeah.
hope that the fraternities and sororities are listening and they'll jump all over that, because that is the kind of thing that would go viral for sure on TikTok or Instagram. I'm sure you've seen it all over the place. And
Yes. And they're
so
creative. This
they're
generation is
very creative,
creative.
extremely creative. So if they got a hold of that for 29 bucks, per box, I think that would be just fantastic. Just a great initiative. And it's
Yeah.
really fun. I like the tiny superheroes theme. I think it's fantastic with the cape and everything.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
fun
you
way to
know,
talk about hard things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we should talk a little bit about pets. I mean, I love pets too. My family, they're all allergic, so we ended up with Siberian cats, which are these
Awesome.
hypoallergenic. Yeah, they're absolutely stunning to look at. I mean, they are like the calendar cats that you see on calendars all over the place in the mall. That's what they look like. They're fantastic looking, but they're also hypoallergenic, which is great. But they're a huge part of our family. I don't think that we would have gotten through COVID if not for these cats. I mean, they were the only thing that brought us like joy and humor every single day in the
True.
house. And you understand that as a pet lover. And I know losing your dog, Kingston, was really a very personal moment for you. And that inspired you to write Pets Are Family. So I'm wondering, what made you decide to share such a vulnerable part of your life in a public way?
Yeah, I mean, for all the reasons that you said in terms of Kingston, really, he was like my son. He was my husband and I's first dog. So my husband and I are going against societal norms. We chose not to have human kids, so we have our dogs and they are our kids. My husband is a stay-at-home dog dad, all of the things. But I think with Kingston, when I think about how when we found out that he had cancer and we were losing him within a week, and then we actually did lose him, I couldn't just smile and say I was fine. Believe me, I really tried. But I was not okay. And at the time, I really had to take a moment to say, am I going to do what my heart needs and take the very pet bereavement policy that I have within my company? Or am I going to do what society says? You're a CEO, get it together, show up for work, do the things you need to do, show up as a leader, don't show anyone that you're weak. And I just couldn't do that. And I actually took the leave, and it was critical for me to have that time off. I was met with some of, it's just a dog, get another one, which is so interesting. You would never say that about even a great cousin or uncle, great grand, right? Anyone.
Mm.
But you would never say that. And I also think pets do become part of your everyday life, your structure every day. Some of them even sleep in your bed. I don't know how closer you get than that. So when you lose them, it's a deep void, and the pain is real because the bond is real. Um, and so I just really believe today I wouldn't have been okay if I didn't have the leave. So I felt grateful that I owned my own company and I could do that.
Mm.
But I also realized it's really hard for us in today's society to say, like, I'm not okay. Everyone wants everyone to just to be okay. It's like, okay, we'll go through the steps, and when are you getting to acceptance? And like, let's go out, let's do the things where it's sometimes you just need to hear from someone, gosh, that's really hard, and I'm thinking about you. And that alone makes you feel less alone. And so that's where I felt a responsibility to advocate for others to have access to pet bereavement leave, and also to say, like, it's okay to say you're not okay. And if someone's brave enough to tell you, I'm not okay, we should just believe them.
Yeah, it is okay to not be okay. I think that's completely fine, and everybody is going to go through that bereavement in different ways and different lengths of time as well.
Yeah.
Everybody reacts differently to it. But we should talk about that advocacy a little bit more because you've called for pet bereavement leave to be in organizational policies for
Yes.
companies. What has been the reaction from other companies, and do you think that this is actually a change that is going to be adopted widely in the future?
I have to say, launching a book like this in the middle of an election year was really tough.
Yeah.
But it was actually received really well. The response, it didn't matter what side of the aisle you were on, pets brought us together.
Mm.
And even the Surgeon General says, like, we have a loneliness epidemic, and pets are literally companions. Loneliness is like as bad as smoking like 15 cigarettes a day. So I think there was a real understanding of in the power pets play in our lives, how they shape our lives, our decisions, our choices, where we live, how we work, whether it's remote or not. That a lot of companies that just said, gosh, we've been thinking culture is hard. And we can still, and this is what I say, I still demand excellence from my team because I'm a good person to work for, because I have compassionate policies like pet bereavement leave. And we're also a two-time Inc. 5000, company, right? So we can have high performing teams and still really care about our people. And so I think it's just sometimes drawing attention to something that helps people say, like, I hadn't thought about it that way. We're in. I think today's next generation is choosing having pets over human kids. And so we have to adjust for the workforce that we're welcoming in.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that. I like that you're adjusting to the workforce. And you're right. I mean, we do have a loneliness epidemic. I'm so happy that you brought that up. All the statistics and all the research says just that, that there are so many men and women that are essentially saying today, over the last 20 years, that there's more of them that have zero close friends than ever before. Just look at the statistics, look at the research. This is just the trend over the last 20 years. Another reason why I'm such an advocate for the fraternity and sorority system because people need people. I don't think that it's healthy. We weren't designed in such a way. I think back to the pandemic, right? We weren't designed in a way to be in isolation. That is just not how humans were built.
Yep.
Okay. It's not healthy for us. And
Yeah.
so, another reason why fraternity and sorority to me makes so much sense because, I'd much rather have a fraternity brother or a sorority sister have the support of their brothers and sisters when they need it, as opposed to sitting by themselves in a dorm room in an unhealthy way. That's just not a successful formula.
Yes.
And I think you're right about the pets. I think that, there's no question that companionship and the bond, unless you're a pet owner, you don't really get this, but
True.
that companionship and that bond is just unbreakable.
Yeah. I love what you said about fraternities and sororities. Like, it is hard as an adult to make friends. Like, as you meet
Yes.
people, you're like, do you want to be my friend? Like, that's such an odd thing. Gosh, what I would give to have the experience of having been in a sorority in college. Like, I like lean into the relationships, into the friendships. They are the relationships you'll have your for the rest of your life. Like, I think it's beautiful.
Erica, it's not too late. I'm just saying. I mean, it really isn't. I know people look at me like very oddly when I say that, but I've done numerous alumni initiations into my fraternity, and it happens on the sorority side all the time,
Wow.
especially for women and men that have contributed in some way to society, and more so that they just feel like it's a fit in terms of the values, right? Those shared values. And so I would say to anybody, and you too, Erica, that it is never too late. I would encourage you to talk to other sorority women that are in your life, and just let them know. Say, you know what, I never really joined a sorority at Lindenwood, and it's something that I regret. It's something that I would love to have that feeling of sisterhood over a lifetime and be able to share. With other women at the leadership conferences, at the conventions, and really be a part of that movement. It's never too late. That's the
I
main
love
thing.
that. Okay, I might be inspired to be doing that. That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, why not? I mean, I would just, drop a couple of hints to some of your sorority friends. And yeah, there's plenty of ways to initiate. And I'll be honest with you, there are some women that have either initiated late, meaning like in their senior year of college, or initiated as alumni. And that really for them, the alumni part of that spans a lifetime. I mean, your time in Lindenwood is 4 years, but sisterhood is a lifetime. So
Yeah.
many women and other men that have initiated late have said to me that, you know what, the experience that I've had as an alumnus is just so much more for them beneficial than it was even in college. And it's a huge network too. So that power of that network, for all the same reasons that we're talking about, connection with pets,
Yeah.
that connection and that network as an alumnus is just huge power in that. And I firmly believe it. And hey, some of these sororities, I mean, easily have 300,000, 400,000 sorority women members. So that is just a huge, huge number. And when you learn to harness the power of that,
Mhm.
I think anything is possible. So I am a big fan. But yeah, never too late.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I love that part, and we talked about it in the intro where you said that you confronted societal gaps head on
Mhm.
throughout your career. And I think, there are so many problems. Oh my God, just turn on the news, okay, for like 5 minutes, and you'll hear a slate of 30 problems going on right now in the world. And I want to empower the college students that are listening right now to you. I want to empower them to go and try to solve these problems because you and I, as CEOs, we can solve certain problems in our sphere, but we certainly can't solve all of them. Some of them are just beyond our scope. And we wouldn't have a personal life if we tried to solve all of them.
That's
So,
true.
what drives your courage to step into those difficult spaces instead of avoiding them?
Yeah, I feel a lot of privilege and gratitude to be a Mexican American woman running a multi-million-dollar company that also allowed me to buy a company and turn it into a nonprofit. Now I help kids in hospitals. I'm living the American dream. I grew up in a trailer park, food stamps, all of the things, and I have a very different life now. That is the American dream, and it wasn't modeled for me growing up. And so I say now, right, step into the hard spaces, show others what's possible, be an example of what is possible. If you haven't seen it modeled for you, like be the first one, like take the leap. And don't take advice from people who aren't doing it or who aren't putting themselves out there. Um, It's such a belief in me to be an example of what is possible for others.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think that's fantastic. Over the weekend, I was speaking at Marietta College in Ohio, and we were talking about having difficult conversations. And what I said to them was, is that I believe that everybody in the room, you all know right from wrong. Like for me to stand up here and try to teach you right from wrong is ridiculous.
Yes.
You're all college students. You know what's right and what's
Right.
wrong because you get that feeling inside in your belly that's like, oh, this is bad. But the question is, do you stand up and do you say something? Or do you disengage and stay quiet? And I said, the cost of staying quiet in that moment is huge,
Yeah.
because it gives other people permission to essentially continue doing the bad things.
Yeah.
And so we have to step in. We have a duty to step in. And also I think, and you talked a little bit about privilege earlier today. I think that's also an important point too, because as college graduates, we are very privileged. You and I both know that not everybody in this world gets an opportunity to go to college. They just don't, period. And so I think we have a responsibility in order to help our communities. And I love that you're doing that as well with your nonprofit. I think that is our obligation, is to help other people in our communities to hold out a hand and help them up. I think that's our obligation for everybody who's listening, because we're all either college students or college graduates. And I just think that's part of our responsibility. So.
Amen. I'm like, yes.
Well, listen, this has been just a really, really great conversation. And I know that our college students have gotten a lot out of it. How can our college students connect with you if they have more questions, or maybe they want to get involved with Tiny Superheroes? How can they
Yep.
connect with you?
I'm Erika Sinner, and it really is Sinner. Don't be afraid to say it. On all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or my website's erikasinner.org. I'd love to hear from them.
Fantastic. All right. Well, now the college students know exactly how to get a hold of you. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. I think it's absolutely incredible with Directorie and also with Tiny Superheroes. So just keep up the good work. And I tell you, if you're a sorority woman right now and you're listening to this conversation and you think Erica would make a great member, you're right. Go contact her. Uh, Thank you, Erica, for sharing all this great information with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was such a pleasure and a delight today.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Erika Sinner, I want you to like this and I want you to share it with other college students that need to hear her words. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. See you next time.